Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine hitting your stride, pushing your limits in a sport, totally focused. No watch banging on your wrist, but still getting every single bit of your vital data captured. That's kind of the dream with sports tech, isn't it?
Absolutely, that freedom,
Hmm.
training or competing without being tethered to a watch is, it's a big draw. Comfort, safety in contact sports, or just feeling lighter.
And that whole idea leads us straight into our deep dive today. We're really getting into Garmin's newest high-end heart rate monitor, the HRM 600 strap.
Right, and we're leaning heavily on a really detailed hands-on review from the 5K runner. That's the5runner.com. This guy's a triathlete runner, gym person, basically someone who really cares about getting faster and digs deep into the gear.
So yeah, our mission here is to pull apart his take on the HRM 600. We'll look at the key findings, what Garmin's promising, and well, where the reality maybe doesn't quite match up, especially for you listening wondering if this thing's worth the, frankly, pretty high cost.
Let's start with, what is this thing? The reviewer pegs the HRM 600 as Garmin's absolute top-of-line strap. It's the replacement for the HRM Pro Plus, their previous flagship.
And who's it for? The review points to those really data-hungry athletes, right? Triathletes, serious runners, cyclists.
Yep. But also, and this is key, people in contact sports think football, martial arts, stuff like that. Or just anyone who, for whatever reason, doesn't want to wear a watch while they're active.
Makes sense. And we should probably mention the price right away because the reviewer does. It's what, $169.99 or £149.99 in the UK? That's, well, it's up there. Definitely not an impulse buy.
Not at all. That's premium territory for a heart rate strap.
Okay, so top price. What's the big selling point then? What makes this HRM 600 different?
The headline feature really is the watch-free recording. So this strap can actually record a timed workout, your heart rate, dynamics, all that directly onto itself. No watch needed during the activity.
Okay. It stores the data internally.
Exactly. And then it syncs up with the Garmin Connect app on your phone afterwards.
Right. I can see the appeal there. The reviewer calls it a great concept. And yeah, forgetting your watch but still getting the data or playing a sport without worrying about smashing your expensive GPS watch, that's freedom.
For sure. Especially, like you said, team sports. Or maybe you just prefer not to wear anything on your wrist. This sounds like the solution, because older models, they still needed a watch nearby to actually start the recording.
Okay, but here's where the review starts to pump the brakes a bit, doesn't it? The idea is great, but the reviewer found the execution less so.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. He found it has significant drawbacks and adds unnecessary complexity. His initial excitement definitely got tempered by some awkward design choices. That's the core tension you pick up.
So what's the biggest issue in practice? What's the main frustration?
It's how you start one of these watch-free workouts. You'd think, okay, maybe there's a button on the strap or a voice command.
Yeah, press and go, right.
Nope. You have to, and the reviewer stresses this. You must start the recording using the Garmin Connect app on your smartphone every single time.
Wait, so you need your phone with you at the start of every workout anyway, even if you don't want the watch?
Precisely. Which, as the reviewer points out, kind of undermines the whole watch-free convenience idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you still need to fiddle with your phone, pull it out, unlock it.
How fiddly are we talking?
He described it as needing 6 taps within the app. And then you have to wait maybe 15, sometimes up to 30 seconds for the phone and strap to connect properly before you can actually start your run or whatever. It's just friction. Unexpected friction for premium gear.
Okay, that does sound annoying. What about the physical button that is on the strap? Surely that does something useful.
You'd think. But no, according to the review, its function is really limited. It wakes the device up. You can toggle between secure and open Bluetooth connections, which is mostly for initial pairing, and it puts it into pairing mode.
But it can't. It can't just start or stop the recording.
Correct. It cannot start or stop a workout recording.
Yeah.
The reviewer finds this completely baffling, given that's the headline feature. Why put a button there if it doesn't do the most obvious useful thing?
Wow, okay. That is awkward, like he said. A button that doesn't button the way you expect.
Exactly. And he mentions other little annoyances too, like prompts about secure connections that most people probably don't need or understand. The button itself is apparently hard to feel and press, especially mid-activity. And the little LED light uses colors in ways that aren't intuitive, like blue sometimes means recording, not pairing.
It really sounds like that comment from the reviewer hits home, designed by tech enthusiasts rather than those who will be using them daily. Needing your phone, multiple taps, waiting, a button that doesn't do the main job.
Yeah, it doesn't scream seamless user experience.
Definitely not seamless for that core new feature. But to be fair, the review does acknowledge that beyond those usability issues, the underlying tech and some other features are actually quite strong.
Okay, good. Let's talk about the positives then. What does it do well?
Well, first off, the fundamental job, measuring heart rate during exercise. The reviewer found the accuracy here exceptional, as you'd hope. He actually uses it as a benchmark device when testing other sensors. That's reassuring. What else?
A big plus, and a return to form maybe, is the detachable sensor module. The little pod snaps off the strap. The previous Pro Plus had it all integrated.
Ah, so you can wash the strap easily. That's huge. Those things get nasty.
Exactly. Much better for hygiene.
Yeah.
It means you could just replace the strap if it wears out, not the whole expensive unit.
Sure.
So that's a definite pro.
Okay. And there's a new battery situation, right? It's rechargeable now.
Yes, it uses a proprietary Garmin charging clip. It's rechargeable, which, sounds modern and convenient. No more coin smells. Sense of butt.
There is a but in the review. The claimed battery life is up to 2 months standby, or around 50 hours of actual workout time. Now, compare that to the old coin cell models like the Pro Plus. They could last up to a year.
Oh, wow. So 50 hours versus potentially hundreds of hours? That's a massive difference. You're trading longevity for rechargeability.
Seems like it. And the reviewer also flags that the charging port on the pod itself isn't covered or protected. So, potential issues with sweat and moisture getting in there over time. It's a design question mark.
Okay. Rechargeable convenience, but maybe a step back in battery life and a potential durability concern. What about new metrics? Any fancy new data?
There is one new running dynamic, step speed loss, or SSL.
Step speed loss. Sounds technical. Is it useful?
The reviewer's take is that SSL on its own, probably not that useful for most runners directly. However,
The however.
yes, the big however is that this SSL metric is apparently necessary for Garmin's newer running economy metric to work. And that metric, the reviewer believes, is fundamentally important for understanding how efficiently you run and identifying potential systemic issues. You do need a high-end compatible Garmin watch to actually see and use that running economy metric, though.
Got it. So SSL is like a key that unlocks a more valuable insight, but only if you have the rest of the Garmin ecosystem.
Yeah.
What about just connecting it to things? Connectivity seems solid. It's got ANT plus MEL, which is great for connecting to tons of devices simultaneously, bike computers, gym machines, older watches. And it has Bluetooth Low Energy, BLE, supporting up to 3 connections there. It even does secure BLE, which adds a layer of privacy if you're connecting to compatible devices or apps that support it. So yeah, it should talk to pretty much anything you throw at it.
And what about swimmers? That cached data feature is still there where it stores HR underwater.
Yep, absolutely crucial for swimmers. It stores the heart rate data while you're swimming because the signals don't transmit well in water, then dumps it to your watch or app afterwards. And compatible watches can also use that stored data to fill in any gaps if the live signal drops out during other activities, like maybe in dense crowds or something.
Then can you just wear it like all day as a tracker?
You can. If you keep it on, it tracks steps, calories, distance, intensity minutes, and your all-day heart rate. It syncs all that using Garmin's TrueUp system to keep your data consistent across devices.
Does it do HRV tracking all day? Like RR intervals?
The reviewer notes it doesn't seem to capture that continuous RR interval data needed for things like body battery when worn just as an all-day tracker, only during timed activities. It's also got a 5 ATM water rating, so swimming is fine. And that detachable module should theoretically help durability, though, again, he wonders if constantly popping it on and off for charging might wear out the strap snaps over time.
Okay, quite a list of features there. Let's circle back to accuracy, because that's paramount for a heart rate strap. We know sports HR is good. What about other things, like pace on a treadmill?
Right, it can estimate pace and distance, which is potentially handy indoors, but the review states it's wildly inaccurate out of the box.
Oh dear, can you calibrate it?
You can, and calibration does make it better. It becomes more consistent on the same treadmill. But the reviewer warns that trying to rely on that accuracy across different treadmills, which might have their own calibration quirks, is pretty difficult. So useful-ish, but with big caveats.
Okay, now, the big one. The review had some pretty surprising findings about heart rate variability, or HRV, accuracy. Especially resting HRV?
Yes, this was a major point in the review, and frankly, a bit of a shocker. He specifically looked at resting RMSSD. That's a key metric many athletes track daily for recovery status using apps like HRV4 Training or Elite HRV.
Man.
And the HRM 600 was found to be not reliably accurate for this specific measurement when compared directly against the Polar H10 strap. The H10 is widely seen as the, quote, gold standard for consumer-level HRV accuracy.
Not accurate. How inaccurate are we talking? For a brand new, top-tier $170 strap from Garmin, that seems bad.
It does. The reviewer's data showed a consistent, systematic underestimation of RMSSD by the HRM 600. On average, it reported values about 6.5 milliseconds lower than the Polar H10 during resting measurements. And the readings are more variable, less consistent day-to-day compared to the H10.
6.5 milliseconds. That's actually quite a lot in HRV terms, isn't it? That could easily push you from a good recovery reading to a caution reading in some apps.
Exactly. The error metrics he calculated were apparently 2 to 3 times larger than for the Polar H10 or even another competitor, the Wahoo Trace AKR HR, under the same test conditions. It led the reviewer to state very clearly that he will not use HRM 600 for resting RMSSD.
Wow. Okay, so if your primary use case involves tracking precise morning HRV for recovery insights, this review strongly suggests the HRM 600 might not be the tool for you despite the price tag.
That seems to be the conclusion for precise resting HRV, yes. He does add a small caveat, though. The HRM 600's HRV data did seem to trend in the right direction generally. So if it's your only HRV source and you're just looking for very broad up or down trends over weeks, maybe it's okay for a very basic interpretation, but not for reliable daily numbers.
Any idea why it might be less accurate for resting HRV?
The reviewer speculates it could be down to how the strap's algorithms process the RR intervals, the tiny time gaps between heartbeats. RMSSD is very sensitive to small errors in detecting those intervals, especially at lower resting heart rates, maybe around 60 beats per minute, where people often take these readings. Maybe the Polar H10's processing is just superior for that specific task.
This whole HRV thing really makes you compare the HRM 600, not just to competitors, but to Garmin's own history. They've had a lot of straps over the years.
We certainly have. From the early HRM run adding dynamics, the Try and Swim adding memory for swimming, the Dual adding Bluetooth, then the Pro and Pro Plus consolidating things, it's been an evolution.
So how does this new HRM 600 stack up against the one it just replaced, the HRM Pro Plus?
Well, the 600 takes the top spot. The review highlights the key differences. You've got the rechargeable battery in the 600 versus the long-life cone cell in the Pro Plus, detachable module in the 600, fixed in the Pro Plus. The 600 adds secure BLE, the button, the LED.
And the big one, the 600 can start recordings via the Connect app, whereas the Pro Plus absolutely needed a watch to initiate a timed activity.
Exactly. That's the unique selling point. But remember, the HRM 600 is also significantly more expensive, launched at $170 compared to the Pro Plus at $130.
Right. So more features maybe, but also more cost and those usability issues. And the reviewer actually suggested that for most people, the older Garmin straps might even be better.
Yeah, he put it quite strongly. He suggested that straps like the older HRM TII or the HRM Puro Plus might be generally superior in terms of commonly used features for the average athlete. Because the stuff that makes the HRM 600 unique, like that app-based recording, really only offers its full benefit if you're deep in the Garmin ecosystem anyway, and specifically need that niche function.
Okay, so let's boil it down. Based on this really thorough review from the 5K runner, who should actually buy the Garmin HRM 600? Who is it really for?
The recommendation is pretty clear-cut. The reviewer basically says the HRM 600 is the clear choice, only if you fall into a few specific categories. 1, you just want the absolute latest, most feature-packed Garmin strap, price no object. 2, you specifically prefer a rechargeable battery even with the shorter life.
Or 3, and this seems key, you absolutely need that ability to record a timed activity without a watch, starting it via the app.
Correct. That makes it, in his words, the best option for team sports players using Garmin who can't wear a watch. Or maybe certain professionals who value the secure BLE connection.
But for everyone else.
For, and I quote, 99% of athletes, the review suggests you should probably skip it.
Wow, 99% skip it. That's blunt. Why such a strong recommendation against it for most people?
Because, fundamentally, you can get heart rate straps that are just as accurate for actual exercise HR for way less money. Even within Garmin's own lineup, cheaper models like the HRM Dual or older Pro versions offer excellent HR accuracy, ANT Plus and BLE, and some even have features like cache data for swimming or basic running dynamics. The very high price of the 600 just doesn't seem justified for the features most people actually use day to day, especially when factoring in those usability frustrations.
It really positions it as a niche product, doesn't it? Not the default upgrade Garmin might present it as.
Very much so. It's interesting the reviewer himself did buy one, but he explicitly says it wasn't for typical training reasons. For him, as someone who tests and compares lots of devices, the ability to record directly into Garmin Connect without needing a paired watch offered a uniquely valuable way to run certain comparison tests. It was a must-have feature for his specific workflow as a reviewer.
But that's a reviewer's specific need, not an athlete's typical need. Okay, so wrapping this all up, what's the final word from this deep dive into the 5K runner's review, and what improvements does he hope to see?
The final verdict is basically this. The HRM 600 is, on paper, maybe the most featured heart rate monitor ever made. It's packed with capabilities. But the reviewer marked it down significantly. The main reasons were the really high price that moved to a shorter-legged rechargeable battery and just the awkward ways its signature features work in practice, especially needing the app to start recordings and the button being kind of useless for that.
So loads of potential, but the user experience for those advanced features really lets it down for the average person.
That seems to be the core message, yeah. He offers some pretty concrete suggestions for Garmin, too. Like, put a simple shortcut in the Connect app to make starting those recordings faster. Better yet, change the firmware so the button on the strap can actually start and stop recordings without the phone needing to be involved right then. And make the app smarter about automatically finding and syncing completed workouts from the strap.
Simple, practical fixes that would address the biggest frustrations. And there was that lingering durability question too, right? About the detachable pod.
Yeah, just that thought. The detachable design is good for washing, but if you're constantly popping the pod off to charge it via that potentially vulnerable port, could the repeated stress damage the strap attachment points over the long haul? Just a point of consideration from someone who uses this stuff hard.
Right. So there we have it, the Garmin HRM 600. According to this detailed look via the 5K Runner's review, it's a strap loaded with tech, some genuinely novel ideas like watch-free recording, but maybe hampered by its premium price and some real potentially deal-breaking usability issues for how you actually use those new features. It ends up feeling like a product for a very specific niche, not the automatic upgrade many might have expected.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What do you value more in your sports tech? Is it having the absolute longest list of features possible on the box? Or is it the gear just working smoothly, intuitively, almost invisibly when you're actually out there trying to train or compete?
That's the real question, I suppose. How do you personally balance that cutting-edge promise with the day-to-day reality of using the tech? Something for you to mull over when you're looking at your next gear purchase.